Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for yet another Chelsea Premier League preview as Chelsea are to take on Southampton away from home at St Mary's Stadium tomorrow with the early kickoff at 12:30 lunchtime. I'm never sure whether it's 12:30 a.m. or p.m. It's confusing to me. Anyway, I'm a foreigner. People let me off like, do you know what I mean? Anyway, that's what we're talking about today. There's a lot to get through, whether it's Hasenhutttl's absolute massive digs at Frank Lampard, or it's all the injury news, or just the game itself. And to do all of that, I am not by myself. I'm first of all joined for a second time ever on this channel by Mr. Jam, part of the Chelsea Social. Of course, all of his links are down in the description below. Jam, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fresh, man. I was just saying to you both, I've got a day off work today, so you've got the best of me. I've got some energy, and I'm looking forward to it. So let's do it.
Exactly. Also, you've got the most fire kit that I think we've had in a long time. Obviously, we don't use it, but I think it's banging. I think it's absolute fire. And of course, by my partner Prime, we were just over on his channel discussing with the Saints view the game as well. But Lewis, let's talk some different angles to the game. How are you?
I'm good. I'm chill. I've had a bit of time to settle down as well. I'm feeling good. How you been, man?
Bro, I'm good. I'm excited for it. Like I said this on your channel earlier already. We're not used to not having midweek games. So even though it was a Monday to Saturday, so not that bad, it was still a bit weird. So I'm excited to get back into it. Obviously, the schedule is now going all a bit crazy. We still don't know when that Liverpool game will be played. But, Atletico on Tuesday. After that is in Man United. So, we've got big things coming up, and I'm just gassed. I'm looking forward to it. And everyone in the chat, if you're here right now, really appreciate it that you're tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. So, any new subscriber helps. So smash the like button, smash the subscription button. And of course, if you want to become a member, click the join button underneath. You don't have to, but if you fancy it, click it. And there's all the information there. If you want to use the super chat, do that as well if you fancy it. And by the way, big up Vitmus in the chat, big up Dave, big up Jesters, all of you guys, big up yourselves. But yeah, let's talk about the game. Before we get into, Hasenhutttl's comments when we talk about Southampton in a little bit, I would suppose we just start with some bit of team news, bit of injury news, which of course is in the title and the thumbnail as well. What Thomas Tuchel revealed earlier in his press conference is that Christian Pulsic is out again. Obviously, we touched on this with Lewis earlier already, but I want to get a bit more in depth about it because it's just a frustrating one. Yes, he's not actually injured, if you want to call it that, because it's just he has a tight calf and they want to make sure that he doesn't actually get injured, hence why they're leaving him out of this one as more of a precautionary measure. Whether he will be back for Atletico on Tuesday, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. No one knows probably at this point, right? But it's just a frustrating one. Like, he hasn't even played recently and he's still picking up these injuries. Like, it's a different injury to the hamstring one and the adductors ones that he's had more regularly. It's a calf thing now. But still, isn't it so frustrating that just keeps happening? Like, sometimes I really rate him as a player, right? And maybe the club were like, okay, we'll take the risk. But to pay 70 million for a player that's injured that much, in hindsight, looks a bit crazy. As much as it could all still go away and, we could have a crazy good player for 10 years, if the injury situation keeps happening like that, to have paid 70 million for him is a bit mental, isn't it, Jam?
Yeah, it's looking a little bit peak now, isn't it? I mean, look, we all know what this guy's capable of. Let's be real. Project Restart Pulisic was probably the best wing in the league. If not one of it was definitely top three. Let's put it that way. The output he had there was absolutely phenomenal. I actually made the mistake of not listening to the comments from Tuchel before I did my preview on Twitter. So I ended up saying, actually, I want him to start. And I think this would have been a good game for him to play as well, because I like to think there'll be a little bit of rotation in front of that Atletico game on Tuesday. But look, you said it yourself. It's frustrating. He hasn't even played that much recently, and he's got another slight knock, let's say. It is frustrating. I mean, what I would say, let's look at it from this point of view. He's prone to injuries. He's prone to muscle injuries. Okay, fair enough. But if we look at why he may have performed really well in Project Restart, that was probably because he had a prolonged break, the initial lockdown when no one was playing. They were just training. He probably had that period just to sort of build up that strength in his muscles and get properly conditioned, which was at home and then on the training pitch and then playing games. And look what happened. He was on it. He was fully fit and ready to go and raring to go. I'm hopeful that him being on the bench and being on the sidelines as he is now and just training is going to have the same effect for the second half of the season for him and for Chelsea. Otherwise, a lot of people are still riding off his hype from Project Restart, which is fair enough because he's showing where he set the bar. But let's get real. It's now getting to the point where we have to ask questions and think, bro, we want you to do well. We love you. But, fam, are you going to perform? Are you going to help the team? Because now it's getting to the point where you're not. And we have to be real. We have to look at the facts. So, look, let's see what he's like at the end of the season. And questions have to be asked, don't they?
Questions do have to be asked. It's a weird one because, like you said there, if we just have to be a bit careful with him for this season, and that means we get over the injury tendencies a little bit, and then we go positively from there, and he gets to play more and gets to impact the team more. That's all well and good. But the fact that he picked up a knock now when not playing, obviously you can pick up muscle injuries, any injury in training, just as much as you can in training as you can in games, pretty much, especially if training is high intensity and at top clubs. It is and should be. But it is still a little bit worrying, right? It is still a little bit worrying to me. Well, what do you make of that, Lewis? I know we spoke about it loads, before the Christmas period, saying don't overplay him. You said never play him 2 games a week, only ever 1 at max. And then that didn't happen during the Christmas period, but he didn't actually pick up any injuries then. And maybe he would have gotten over his tendencies more if he didn't play, but he didn't actually pick up any more injuries. And now he's doing that again. So I don't know.
Yeah, but do you not think it might be build-up of the fact that we've overplayed him so long in that short period? Because that's what it kind of looks like to me as well. My opinion ain't changed the same. If Pulisic don't play tomorrow, oh well. Till the end of the season, I don't care too much. I just want this guy to have as little injuries as possible. Play him as sparingly as possible. And if we're playing a 3-at-the-back system anyway, that's limited attacking options to use anyway, in terms of the fact that you only have 3 attacking places in the terms of 2 forwards and a striker, or 2 strikers and somebody in behind them. So we have the option that we can be that wary with Pulisic. We don't have to play him as often as we potentially would have to if we were playing a position that needed 5 attackers as compared to 3. So yeah, Pulisic on the bench again. I don't care too much because we know what the quality of this player is about anyway. It's just you want to get down on a more consistent basis, and the first way to do that, make sure he stops getting an injury every single time he starts building form and getting regular game time. So, yeah, for this season, I don't care how long it will feel, especially once we get to April, May, and we're still playing Pulisic once every week. Just keep it going. I don't care because he needs to stop this trend of getting injuries before we just continue to lose him to it.
Exactly. And, I've touched on this with Elizabeth Helenek yesterday, actually, and I will get on that later with the whole Kepa conspiracies. Was the only reason he played the board and whatever. And I'll touch on that, a couple of thoughts that I don't think people have necessarily considered. But Pulisic is a tough one. And, we definitely need to figure it out. Whether it's the medical staff, the coaching staff, or he himself, someone needs to figure it out because, like I said, I really rate him extremely highly. And I think there's an unbelievable player in there that we've seen glimpses of, especially like Jam said, after restart or in restart, whatever you want to call it. But we just need to see it more often. But more positive news. Kai Havertz is finally back, has finally returned. Whether he will be able to start or not, or he was probably able to, but whether he will start or not is a different question. But he's at least finally back. Of course, we all know he picked up a certain something in autumn, and then it was out for a little while. And then, apparently it hindered him so much physically, even though Frank started him 5 games on a bounce straight after, which I still don't understand to this day. And his form was kind of on, very good, especially that 3-0 away win over Burnley. That was a really good performance by him, even though he didn't score. That was a good performance. And then obviously he hit that illness, right? And then it just didn't go well from there. He had a couple of decent performances under Tuchel, I thought. Nothing special and standout where we're okay, that's the generational talent we signed. But, at least there was something to look at. And then he picked up another small niggle, right? And also a small niggle that sounded less serious than it ended up being because he was out since a couple of days before the Spurs game now. And that is a little while back now already. But he's back. He's back and I'm excited to see it. I still think that Thomas Tuchel can get unbelievable things out of Kai Havertz. Even more so than Pulisic. I just believe so much in Kai Havertz. Yes, maybe it's a little bit of hype, and yes, Chelsea signed him. I know. But even when I've watched the Bundesliga, when I watched Leverkusen, whenever I watch that, I'm like, bloody, he's good. He's good. And I just love the way he just, I don't know, it always reminds me of having a magic broom from Harry Potter when they just float around the pitch, the way he's silky smooth and just floating about. I just love it. It's like Wingardium Leviosa and whatever crap. I love it. It's sick. Do you know what I mean? It just
Harry Potter jokes are lost on me. I can't lie. I've only seen the last ever fucking film of it. Sorry, guys.
Nah,
Yeah.
you've got to cash up on that, bro. It's lockdown.
I knew
Anyway.
it.
What else
Said
you
it was
doing?
witchcraft.
Witchcraft.
Come on, man.
I mean, it quite literally is witchcraft. Like,
No, it is, yeah.
You're right then, I guess.
they don't hide it anyway. They don't hide it. But I'm big fan of Kai. Big fan of Kai, and I hope he can just come back, stay fit now, and really show us what he's got. What do you make of that, Lewis? And do you think it is time to properly put some faith and trust into him, or is it more a case of where we need to slowly but surely bet him in?
I want to put him in straight, but I also think it'd be smarter to be slow with it. Like, I think if you bring Kai Havertz on for the last 20, 30 minutes of the game, maybe you get him a bit sharp for the Atletico Madrid match, which I kind of would prefer to see him play in that game, to be honest, mainly because of how important that match is. I'm not too sure, though, because with Kai Havertz, like, I have no worries about where he's going. He's going straight to the top. It's just he's had so many things hold him back in terms of injuries, in terms of adaptation. It's like, I don't want to put that much pressure on him right now because he's already just trying to get back to his best. So maybe throw him on in the last 20, 30 minutes. A fresh Kai Havertz against those tired legs might do something. But it's with the same breath, I wouldn't be against seeing him start either because I know what he's about. I know what he can bring to the team. And plus, we all know what second half of the season Kai Havertz is all about.
Exactly. I mean, that's a very good point. Obviously, in case people don't know, in his Leverkusen days, his second half of seasons was always significantly better in terms of output and numbers than his first half of the season. It's basically the opposite of Diego Costa, who scored 20 goals for Chelsea twice and scored like 18 of those until Christmas both times around. So, the opposite of that. Maybe we should just get Diego back until Christmas and Kai after. Obviously joking. It's still weird. Diego Costa's just sat in Brazil, just chilling. Still no club. Like, it's a bit of a weird one anyway. Enough about that. Obviously, we touched on the two injuries. Another few people that we should probably mention is Thiago Silva is back in training. I saw someone in the chat before we went live asking who trained today. As far as I'm aware, and the way that Tuchel put it, Thiago Silva was certainly was in training yesterday and probably is in training today. Haven't seen anything reported against it, but obviously he was out for a little while. He's 36 years old, so he was still out for tomorrow's game. You're back in training for 2 days. At 36, you don't just go straight to starting. And, as a bench player, it's fine to have Zuma on the bench, realistically. You don't need to risk Thiago Silva even on the bench in case he has to come on, right? But in general, obviously positive that he's back fit, and I'm just hoping that he can start against Atletico Madrid, really. That's my only hope. There's not really much to say for you two guys. I'm just going to move on to Tammy Abraham, who, of course, was fouled, in my opinion. Should have had a penalty. Didn't get it. Picked up the injury against Newcastle. Ankle injury that I'm not sure how serious it looked, but he looked in serious amount of discomfort. But I thought, you probably just strained it. You're sore for a couple of days, and then you're fine, and that's what it seems to be. Thankfully, Tuchel said not 100% guaranteed that he'll be fit, but, it looks very likely he'll be involved, at least on the bench, and then we'll go from there to see who Tuchel decides to pick against Atletico Madrid. And I guess also on Saturday, tomorrow, I don't know, my head's all over the shop when games are actually happening. But I guess that slowly but surely brings us on to talking about a little bit about the lineups, right? Because obviously we touched on it on Lewis's channel, but obviously then I haven't gotten Jam's thoughts involved. Jester has made a very good comment here. Obviously Southampton, like Dan told us on Lewis's channel, usually tend to play a 4-2-2-2. Although there has been rumours that they might change to a 5-back or 3-back, whatever you want to call it, for this one. So it will be an interesting one. And I agree with Jester. Almost regardless of what Southampton will do, I think we will start with a 3 at the back. It would be very surprising to me if we changed it now, a game before Atletico, unless he really wants to play 4 against Atletico. Zero chance, in my opinion, of us changing it tomorrow, except, like Jester said, if it doesn't work at all, Tuchel is, of course, not hesitant to change it for the second half. But Jam, let me get with you first. Do you think we'll stick to a back 3? Do you think we'll stick to the same formation or one of the two that we've used, whether it's a 3-4-1-2 or 2-1? What do you make of that? And also, in terms of looking ahead to Atletico, do you think we'll stick to a back 3 for that one as well?
Yes, for both. Quite simply, yeah, of course. I can't see him changing it up in these games when we haven't played anything else, so far. I mean, let's be honest, with Tuchel, anyway, the formation that's played isn't necessarily what's stuck to in the game. So it doesn't really matter, it doesn't really matter. I mean, just for the sake of putting it down on paper, 3-4-2-1 is what we're going to play tomorrow. I don't really see any surprises. I mean, it would have been nice for him to change it up a little bit. So that's hence why in my preview I said perhaps Pulisic could start this one. Give Cho a rest for Atletico. But now that he's out of this game, I was kind of tempted to think Kai Havertz could start there because of the link-up that he and Timo had the last time we played Southampton. Those two were just absolute fire, if you remember that, when we drew 3-3. But then Kai's been out for a few weeks. So do you really put him in straight away? Probably not. So with that in mind, it means probably Cho's going to play again, doesn't it? And it probably means that we're going to be playing a very similar team, if not the same team that we're going to be playing against Atletico on Tuesday. I mean, I would personally like to see Timo Werner up front because of the destruction that he caused to the Southampton high line last time. I think this is exactly his type of game, and I think he could do it. So I know he's been doing very well at left forward, but actually I think this game he could do it up front, and we could get another attacking player in there. Perhaps Ziyech, or you could put Cho inside, put Reece James right wing back. There's a few options there. But I feel like Timo has to be up front here. I don't really want to see Giroud because of that high line. I think we may as well exploit it. Could have been a nice game for Tammy, but, he's out. So let's see Timo up front and see what we can do behind him.
That's the weird thing. I guess we don't know for sure whether Tammy is out. I guess in theory, probably could start. It depends on whether Tuchel plans to use him against Atletico. If he does, probably not. But the same almost goes for Giroud, but I completely agree. And Lewis actually said this himself earlier. You would love to see a Timo up top with like a Hasenhuttl on the left, Ziyech on the right kind of thing as well, wouldn't you, Lou?
Yeah, it's the right sort of game to play Werner up front because they'll press us and they'll leave space in behind for Werner to exploit. Hasenhuttl, I understand if we play him on the right again, but same way you can play him on the left and potentially get even more out of him than you already do now. Because he'll have that much more of an end product if you get him onto his more comfortable right-hand side. He's been great the last few weeks. Nothing to take away from him. But he can be even better. And that's the exciting part with him. Ziyech as well goes in because we're not too sure on Kai Havertz, whether he'll start the full 90. Pulisic ain't going to play. So Ziyech just walks in and it makes perfect sense on the right-hand side. If you're not going to play him on the right and you're going to play Hasenhuttl on the left, you might as well keep that spot open for Ziyech. And with the Atletico game in mind too, and potential rotation for that game, it's a good chance to give him some time on the pitch, give him another opportunity to show himself, and for all you know, you might see a better Hakim Ziyech and a more motivated Ziyech as a result.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's we've touched on this in your channel. Like I said, I would love, if he was fit to start, I would love to see Kai start as like that striker, false 9, 10 kind of role that Mounts kind of had against Spurs, and then Werner as like the left inside forward. I think that is probably the best to get the best out of both of them actually. And then whether you have Ziyech as that in that right role, whether you have Mount in that right role, whether you have Pulisic in that right role, whether you have even Callum Hudson-Odoi if he doesn't play right wing back there, totally fine. But those two in those roles, Werner and Havertz, I think that's what gets the best out of both of them. Like we said, probably Havertz isn't going to start and come off the bench ideally, so that's all right. And then, as much as like the only thing why I'm somewhat hesitant on the Timo up top thing is because, okay, it's a mix of what we want and our predicted 11, right? But the way Tuchel spoke about it, Timo up front seems to be like his last resort. Of course, somewhat depends on the opponent, and both of you are very correct. Against Southampton is probably the fact, well, where we're closest to it, right? Do you know what I mean? Like where it's best possible. But still, it doesn't seem like Tuchel is the biggest fan of it and wants to do that all that much. So I don't know whether we will see it. And I guess that makes me consider Kai doesn't start. So maybe he just does the same that did against Spurs. And Mount starts that role again. And Mount starts that striker, false 9, number 10 role. And then we have Werner as a left striker, left inside forward. And on the right, well, I don't know. Either Hasenhuttl and you play Reece James the right wing back, or Ziyech, even though Ziyech probably doesn't quite have the pace to do that job, to do that role. So it's a difficult one, really. It's a really difficult one to predict. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see what Tuchel does. I mean, that's the fun about it, right? Kind of. We don't know. I called him in one of my first previews under Tuchel. I was like, yeah, Mr. Unpredictable. We have no clue. And so far, I've never been anywhere near getting the right lineup, to be honest. There was always something. Like last time, I don't know, Kepa started, and then another time this guy started, and that guy started. I'm like, what on earth is going on? But fair dues. But I want to talk about the wing backs. Obviously, we hinted on it somewhat with Hudson-Odoi already. So, if you have any additional thoughts on that, share that. But also on the left side, Marcos Alonso started against Barnsley and Newcastle, meaning Chilwell didn't start any of the last two. I'm not sure if he came on in either, to be honest, can't remember. And we've got Atletico on Tuesday. I initially said I wouldn't mind Chilwell against Atletico to have a bit more of a better defensive option there to make sure that Atletico don't hurt us too much on the break. But it's also a case of it's difficult to score against Atletico, and then Alonso gives you an extra outlet. So it's kind of like looking at it both ways around, I guess, especially in the away leg, which officially is an away leg, even though it's not in Madrid. You could argue maybe going for the more risky option in Alonso just to make him more likely to score is probably a good shout. But let me go with Lewis first on this one. Obviously, we touched on it on your channel already, but do you want to just explain why you would pick either one for both of the wing-back roles?
It's a sticky one because I rate how Alonso's been the last 4 or 5 games, but we've also been playing teams that sit deep against us. It allows us to try and interplay, and we can move Werner into the left-hand side, and Alonso can make those inverted runs. I don't really feel as confident against a team like Southampton because they're not going to sit deep. They're not going to force us to push so many players into the final third to try and find extra options. And if we push Marcos Alonso into the middle, and then it doesn't work and we get caught on the counter-attack, oh, look, Marcos Alonso is out of position. And we know if Marcos Alonso is caught out of position, Marcos Alonso is not getting back into position. He is barely even going to try and get back into position. So I'm not too keen on it. And it's even madder saying this. I might prefer to play him against Atletico than Southampton, which completely negates everything I've said over the last 5 weeks. But it makes more sense. You'll be able to use Alonso a lot more in the final third. They're going to sit deep and they're going to allow us to play a bit more of our game. So it's less of a risk. Granted, we're going to be screwed on the counter-attack and if Alonso's caught out his peak. But that's where I've already said Alonso has these deficiencies as a player that you just can't help. You just need to try and hide. And Tuchel's done a great job of hiding that. But also, I think the Southampton game, it'd be an easy point for them to try and expose us. They aren't pushovers. Regardless of their bad form, they aren't pushovers. So, Chilwell for the Southampton game for me. Atletico Madrid, we go for Marcos Alonso. That's the pairing I'd have.
Fair. What do you make of that one, Jam? And as obviously you just touched on that, I want to get this comment up that I think I had already up. No, that's not it. You just talk about that. I'll get the comment up, and then we'll touch on that as well. Who would you start at left wing back? Presuming, like I said, we will start back three.
Yeah, I actually agree with Lewis completely. I don't mean to be boring, but, I think it's just facts. So I would play Ben Chilwell in this game. I feel like where he's been off form, where he did play, up until where he got dropped, bring him back against Premier League opposition. Don't throw him in the lion's den, We know he can play well, and maybe this time on the sideline's done him well. He could do a job against Southampton, a team that's lost 6 games in a row. Come on. Play him here. Alonso, let's be fair to him. Whilst he has got his deficiencies, as Lewis said, it looks like he's running through porridge anytime he's trying to sprint. He's still effective. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I call him Iron Alonso sometimes. I mean, just how he plays, And I know that kind of taking a piece, and it's Iron Robin will be shaking his head. But look, let's be real. This guy in the final thirds, he's quite good, isn't he? He's quite good. So sometimes he has got that name, And let's use that against Atletico because they are the king of parking the bus, but then that bus turns into a Ferrari when it wants to. Do you know what I mean? So let's use him there and try and get an away goal with his attacking prowess, if you like. But against Southampton, where they're going to press, they're going to play a bit higher up. I think they've got a little bit of pace dotted around. Let's go with Chilwell.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair shout. I guess it all depends on, and that is something we don't know for sure. Tuchel might sit there and say, Alonso is actually fine to play against Southampton, Atletico, and Manchester United. And if he is, and he thinks that's the better option, I go for it. You know what I mean? Like, as much as I prefer Chilwell to Alonso, what matters most, right, is that Chelsea win. And if Tuchel thinks that's the best way of doing it, fair play. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's an interesting comment, I thought, by Anonymous here, saying, what about Chilwell playing at left centre-back and doing the job that Azpilicueta does at right centre-back? Which is an interesting shout. Definitely he's more suited to it than Emerson was against Barnsley. And it's definitely an interesting one. Obviously, I don't see Rudiger necessarily getting dropped, but it's a very easy transition just put Rudiger to the right and play Chilwell at left centre back. So it's not an impossible thing to make happen. The only thing I will say is Aspie and Hudson-Odoi being our wing backs, and even if it's Reece James being our more attacking side, is a reason. If you put Chile on the left, you kind of split which side is the more attacking one, which might not be ideal and might be a part of the reason why Tuchel has done it the way he has. But I actually think it's a good shout. I mean, the Aspie rest for Tuesday, not the worst idea either. I mean, obviously he was rested against Barnsley, so he should be okay. And he's playing right centre back. It's not like he's playing right back or right wing back, running up and down, left, right, and centre all game long, right? So he should be okay. But I still thought it was an interesting shout, and I just wanted to get your thoughts, opinions. Like, what would you make of just randomly if Tuchel turns up and starts Chilwell at left centre back? What would you think of that, Lewis?
Wouldn't be openly against it, but same way we signed Chilwell more because he was better going forward than he was defensively. So I wouldn't be all for it, but I'd want to see it in the case of 90 minutes before I make a full judgment on it. I think the jury would still be out on it. I was worried about Emerson when we played, and he had a semi-decent performance there. So who's to say Chilwell can't either? With the extra defenders as well, there's less errors for him to make too. So it could be seamless, but I'd have to see that first because there's a lot of variables that you'd have to see for yourself before you realize how it would work or not.
For sure. What do you think of it, Jam? Obviously, you nodded to it, seeing like someone surprisingly agreeing to it, something that you haven't thought of because I definitely haven't. So what do you make of it?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it. Maybe it could work. Is this the game to try it out? Probably not. No. Maybe because they're a decent team, and they are going to stick it to us at points, Yeah, whilst we're in good form, this is still one of the better teams that we played in this run. So let's respect them a little bit. Perhaps it's not the time to do it. However, maybe we could see that going forward because I'd like to see Chilwell playing. But, there are many variables to it that we may not have considered. So I'd like to kind of think of it going forward. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. Let's say that. But I wouldn't do it in this game. I wouldn't want to see it in this game.
Yeah, fair enough. And Jester said it, like, watch Tuchel come out with something that blows everyone's mind. And that's something I want to touch on because I guess that's somewhat, yeah, exactly. That someone hints at Kepa. Me and Lewis have agreed it's not going to happen. He said on a number of occasions now that Mendy is his number one. And, unless somehow Tuchel thinks Kepa should start against Atletico, he will give Mendy that game before as well. So Mendy definitely starts tomorrow. But because obviously there's been these conspiracy theories in almost, I would always tend to call them that. They say, the board just controlled. The board is the only reason why, Kepa played against Newcastle and everything else. My counter argument to that is they're not making him play Chilwell, who we paid 50 million for, and he's the highest earning player according to the Athletic. They're not forcing anybody to play Pulisic all the time. I know injuries maybe is a little bit slightly different situation, but Pulisic was 70 million. Chilwell was 50 million. Havertz was like 80 million with add-ons could get up to close to 100 million. And they're not necessarily forcing these guys in. They weren't doing it with Frank. So far, they weren't doing it with Tuchel. Obviously, Havertz has been kind of injured for a little bit. But still, I don't see the conspiracy with they're forcing him to play Kepa, but the same doesn't go for Chilwell. Or the same doesn't go for Pulisic. And the same doesn't go for Havertz. Hence why I don't really buy the whole idea. And to be honest, Tuchel came in, said everyone has a clean slate. So I think it was kind of fair enough to play Kepa. I was actually arguably more surprised at the fact that he said straight after, no, Mendy's my number one. I'm like, so what have you based that on then? Unless it's significant training performance differences. Because in the games they've played, neither of them have made mistakes. Okay, Kepa had the one against Barnsley where Tammy had to bail him out of. But I actually think it's fair enough. If you come in as a new manager and your two goalkeepers are Kepa and Mendy, I think it's fair enough that you don't have the clear number one straight out, that you give both a chance. But like I said, the board is not forcing anyone. It's just a load of BS. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I kind of agree with that statement, but I want to know what you guys think. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, nearly 200 people watching. Subscribe and smash the like button. We haven't even hit 50 likes yet, so make sure you do that right now. We'll get to at least 100 by the end of this. So anyone that's here right now, go down below, smash the like button. Doesn't cost you any money, doesn't cost you any time. But Jam, what do you think of the board forcing Tuchel to play certain players, and why would it only go for some and not for others? Doesn't really make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't make sense. Let's be real. Everyone likes a story when it comes to Chelsea Football Club sometimes. Look, when you're a new manager, you're going to come in. There is that new manager bounce, and you are always going to, I don't care who you are. If you come in halfway through a season, especially, you're always going to come in and say it's a clean slate for everyone. So to what extent you actually mean that, that's up to you. But I like what he's done with Kepa and Mendy. I mean, when I look back on it, whilst I wasn't happy at the time when I saw the lineup against Newcastle, afterwards I was calling him Kepa Riza Bilbao again, you know? Fair play to him. He's got his confidence up. And I think it may have just said to Mendy, you know, by the way, we're prepared to drop you if you're not on it. And it's good to have that competition as a player. So I think he's done the right thing there when you look back on it. Because let's be honest with Mendy, he started off really well. And then it kind of just went down a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying...
But in all fairness, it went back up as well, though.
Yeah, and it went back up. So I just think having that competition will always keep you on your toes as a player. So I think it's a good thing. Potentially what it's done, you know, you could argue a positive of playing Kepa there. It's, you know, maybe shown that actually he's not rubbish if we're going to get rid of him. Do you know what I mean? It might have just kept his value up a little bit. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, it's not the board forcing him to play, is it? Come on, let's be real, guys.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, Sammy has made a fair point to some extent. You know, the goalkeeper position is maybe slightly different in terms of value to the team, with the exception of mistakes, right? In terms of obviously ball distribution. And Mendy's actually, in my opinion, been better at that than I thought he would be. Fair play to him. You know, doing Cruyff turns left, right, and centre, mugging everybody off. I love it.
My heart when he does it, honestly.
It reminds me of when Cech did it against, like, I think Hernandez for Man United, and Cech just didn't look like the guy that would pull off Cruyff turns. So like he just looked a bit dodgy doing the Cruyff turn, but hey, it worked. Like I rated it. But you know, I agree, Lewis. What do you think? Like, is it a board thing? Is it a conspiracy? What do you think of the whole situation?
I won't say it's like a big conspiracy or anything, but I definitely think the board have some impact to play on it. Like, I get playing Kepa, but I get playing him in cup games. I don't get playing a keeper with the worst save percentage in Premier League history in a big league match where we could potentially climb into the top 4 if we get a win out of it. That doesn't make sense. Like, regardless of how Tuchel wants to try and speak on it, it don't make sense to me, because if we're doing this thing where everyone gets an opportunity, I feel like Kepa would have had a chance earlier than straight after the Barnsley game. And the Barnsley game was good, but it weren't great. It weren't like, wow, he should start next game. It was just good performance, Kepa. Good performance. You did your job well. I respect that. Same thing for the Newcastle game. Good performance. Did his job well. Only reason why I don't speak too much about it is because we didn't lose. If we lost, I'd be fuming at the fact that we played Kepa in such an important match. I don't know how many times we're going to do it. We'll have to wait and see on that. But it does look obvious to me that there was an influence behind Kepa's start. And it makes sense. Raises valuation fee. It's in the absolute pits right now. Those two performances have probably at the very least raised it by 5 or 10 million. To 5 or 10 million probably. Or maybe it's now the case that we could loan him out to somewhere for a year next season, because he's shown he can be competent in the space of 90 minutes. But that's what it looks like to me. It don't look like it was any sort of tactical decision, because it don't really make sense. Like, you play your best team. Like, you give players chance, but you also play your best team, and you can't risk that in goal, especially when the other option is someone who's been so consistently bad for us. So I don't think it was a tactical decision. I do think the board had some involvement in it. I also think Tuchel was more accepting of it and was more willing to give him a chance because he wants to give players a chance. But I do think that there was heavy influence in this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to try to pronounce your name, but we have a good comment here that I thought I'm going to point out. The fact that Kepa, Alonso, Rudiger, the 3 dissidents, according to The Athletic, are all playing again, there's some weight to this conspiracy theory, in his opinion. And that has, you know, is a fair enough point to make. I do so many streams these days, I can't remember where I said it and who I discussed it with. But I said it before. If you look at what Chelsea's team, socials team and PR team have done since Tuchel has been appointed, it's very interesting. There's been a Kovacic-Rudiger video on YouTube and Instagram. There's been a Kovacic-specific question in 2 Tuchel interviews. Rudiger has had a specific interview in written form on the Chelsea website. Alonso has recently had the Chelsea TV interview when he wasn't when he didn't score, when he wasn't the man of the match, when he didn't do anything specific, but he was the guy that was interviewed. The same with Mateo Kovacic against Spurs. He was very good, but still, they are really pushing these 5 players, 4 with Kepa hasn't had an interview, but the other 4, they're really pushing them to make sure that the fans aren't upset with them, to bring some positive, PR and media coverage to them. And I think it is interesting. And I don't think that says either they were at fault or they weren't at fault. I just think the club are really, really making sure that there's no negative vibes around these players from the fans or also within the club to some extent. And I think that is very interesting because, if you wanted to take that approach, they could have taken that sort of approach earlier while Frank was still in charge. And I think that is an interesting one. Again, I don't think still the board are forcing him to do things. They may be hinting him, why don't you play Kepa? We think that might help you in getting your contract extension in the summer. Maybe something like that, rather than saying play Kepa. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's a little bit like that. I don't know, right? I don't know. But it is an interesting one nonetheless. Obviously, we spoke through a bit of the team. We had a few more likes. Big up Vitmus again, by the way. Big up Dave as well. Just made you mod earlier because why not? And obviously, I will get to that as well. I guess we spoke about goalkeepers already now, so I guess we might as well touch on it and spread out a little bit before we get into more details about Southampton themselves. The whole goalkeeper position is a tricky one anyway. Obviously, Lewis touched on it, raising Kepa's value and, possibly getting a loan, possibly getting a permanent transfer, whichever is possible in the summer. Where does that leave us? Because we're not, Caballero is hitting 40, I think, this year. So we're not really going to keep him around as a second choice goalkeeper for much longer. And presuming we will want to get rid of Kepa because we don't want to have a £70 million player on the bench, there is probably a goalkeeper coming in. Unless we make Kepa the first choice and Mendy the second choice, that could work. If Kepa hits that form in terms of marketing and values, that is okay. But I don't think that will ever happen with Kepa anymore. So the whole goalkeeper situation is an interesting one. I do believe that someone will come in the summer. But Havertz said Donnarumma. Yeah, I just don't see Donnarumma happening. Donnarumma hasn't played a Champions League game in his career. They're on the way to win the league, not just making Champions League. He's from the AC Milan youth. He's been there since he's 8 years old. He's like the Mason Mount to them, right? Well, Mason Mount is to us, that's what he is to them, or Reece James or whatever. If they win the league, if they finally qualify to the Champions League, why on earth would Donnarumma leave? Why would you leave your boyhood club when they're finally doing well, when you're part of the reason that's brought them out of this decade almost long slump that AC Milan have been in, and now they're finally getting out? I don't see it. But what do you make of the goalkeeper discussion? I guess, is there anyone in specific you're like, I would love him, or do you just want to wait and see what happens until the summer? Let me go with Jam first for that one.
I'm more inclined to say wait and see what happens in the summer. I'll be honest, I haven't really particularly had my eye on other keepers since we got Mendy, and it's not because of Mendy, but it just hasn't been too much of a glaring problem for us anymore. I've certainly got my eye on other positions. Beforehand, certainly, maybe looking at a centre-back, Haaland. We all know what I think about that, Team Haaland and everything. But Donnarumma, is he running out? Is his contract running out this summer?
Yeah.
I feel like it is. Yeah. Okay.
Like Jester said here, there are contract negotiations going on. Obviously, we could jump in there, but I still, for the reasons I explained, that's why I think he will extend rather than leave.
I agree. I agree with you. I mean, that would be maybe the only reason why I would say let's go and get him. It's because it's almost not going to cost us anything, So yeah, Donnarumma, let's have a look at it. But you're right about AC Milan. They're doing well. Why is he going to want to leave, come to a new country when his team will be the top of the league? I just don't see that. And he'd want to play Champions League with them before he does leave. Let's be honest. They're probably going to get that at the very least. So yeah, it's pretty unlikely with him. He'll extend probably. But I think we should look at it in the summer. I haven't really got mine on anyone. I don't know what you think, Lewis.
No, I don't really have my eye on anyone else. And to be honest, you raise a good point that this guy's probably AC Milan through and through. And if he's Milan through and through, I'm sure there's some stuff that he wants to do with that club and tick off before he leaves. So, especially at his age too. So I could see him staying for another few years as well. Contract negotiation, I could see happening because the guy is only 21 or 22 years of age. He could easily grow and continue to build his name a bit more and then leave. There's no reason for him to make a rush like it. So I'd be all for it if it was happening and if the fee was decent, but don't have to. Also, Edouard Mendy, he's all right. Like, he has his howlers in him, fair play, but jury's still out on him for the rest of the season, I think, in my opinion. So I'm still going to give him a fair due.
Yeah, I would agree. I think before we now, in a second, go to Southampton, I guess, let's rattle through the rest of the team quickly. I don't think there's much to discuss anyway, to be honest. I think the midfield too is pretty much set to be Jorginho and Kovacic, especially against a team like Southampton. I think that's about the worst game to start Kante again for the first time in the league since coming back from injury. Any objections? Otherwise, I just move on.
Nah, all agreed.
Yeah, right. I agree. Fully agree with that.
Yeah, and the back three, I mean, yeah, we touched on the whole Chilwell thing, but realistically, if we do play a back three and Thiago Silva isn't back, it will be Rudiger, Christensen and Aspie. And it probably should be as well. Yes, I know people consistently make the argument, Reece James should play at right centre back and this and that. I get it. But people need to also respect Aspie a bit more. It's a bit like with the Alonso Chilwell situation to some extent, because Alonso's played hundreds of games at left wing back. Chilwell's played 5 or something. And Reece James, yes, he might have played there in the youth, but that's years ago. And since coming to the first team and since playing, also professional football at Wigan, he's played as a right back or as a centre mid. And for us, as a right back and as a right wing back, he's not played right centre back. You don't just throw players in positions they're not used to after years of not doing it. Even if he's done it in the youth, you can't compare the youth times to the professional times. Dominic Solanke was scoring 60 goals a season in the youth days. And he scored in his career, 3 Premier League goals? That clearly doesn't say everything. And this is no dig at Dominic Solanke. I actually think it's been very unfortunate and very stupid to leave Chelsea when he has, because whenever I watched them in the youth days and when I watched him at Vitesse, obviously when I was still picking him up before he left, there's a better striker in Dominic Solanke than there is in Tammy Abraham in terms of an overall package. Sadly, Tammy had the grit and the heart to stick it out and is now reaping those rewards, while Dominic Solanke backed out of it, didn't have the balls to do it, and has now ruined his whole career. So, good luck with that, Dom. Big up yourself. But, just to touch on, the youth days don't mean everything. Just because he's played them in the youth days doesn't mean everything. But yeah, I guess that's the rest of the team pretty much settled. We don't know about the front three and the right wing back and the left wing back, but we're pretty sure about the other ones. That's pretty much what we got to. And to get to the title and to get to, a little bit more of Southampton, Hasenhuttl firing deep digging shots at Mr. Frank Lampard. And I will get this up in just a second to read through a couple of these things, because I was like, really, Ralph? Obviously, Ralph Hasenhuttl is my fellow countryman of Austria. So, I have followed the guy for a little bit. Obviously, he's been a professional footballer in a bit in Germany and in Austria as well. But then obviously made his managerial career at Ingolstadt in a Bavarian, southern German, club. And obviously then got up to Leipzig, did very good there. In their first few seasons up, and I think they finished second on the rim in the Bundesliga, if I don't remember correctly. I think they still achieved their highest Bundesliga finish on the rim rather than on the Nagelsmann so far. Obviously, to some extent, been to do that, Dortmund had a big slump at the time, and now they're a bit more back, right? Even though they're struggling this season a little bit. And then obviously he made his way to Southampton, and I read this earlier just before we started the stream. Actually, he arguably has probably the safest job in the entire Premier League. As much as he's lost 9-0 twice, the Hasenhuttl ain't getting sacked. The only situation in which Hasenhuttl leaves Southampton is if he chooses to leave Southampton. They ain't sacking that guy. They really are not. But to just follow it up, and I will get to the super chat question. Actually, let me get to it first, because it is about our team rather than talking about Southampton. Big up yourself, Yak. Love the donation. Everybody else, if you want to make sure that I see your chat message, do use the super chat function. But of course, you don't have to. But he said, should we rest a few key players for Atletico? Odoi, Alonso, and maybe Mason Mount. I think Mount will be one of those that might well be rested. Although, like I touched on, if Kai can't start, I wouldn't be surprised with it at all. And Mount didn't even travel to Barnsley. So I think we know how physically fit and ready to do whatever needs to be done Mount is. So I don't think he needs a rest. I think he might get it, but I don't think he requires it. Alonso, we touched on. We think there is a good chance Chilwell plays for exactly that reason. But Callum is another one. Callum hasn't played a lot of football in his professional career, let's be honest. He's over the injuries, really, it seems at least. And he's 20 years old. If you can't play every 3 days at 20, you never can as a player, and then you're going to struggle at a top club, quite frankly. So I think physically he's probably fine and capable of doing so. And I think the more game time Hudson-Odoi gets, particularly as a right wing back, the better he will get there, personally. So I don't really think Odoi needs one. But Lewis, what do you make of that? Would you think we should rest specific players, and in particular the 3 that Jaka mentioned here?
Alonso only for me. Mount makes sense. Also because you could quietly say, like, didn't have the best of games in the last match. It'll be a good one. Just give him a bit of a break and a rest and come back into the next game fully fit. But same way with Mason Mount's stamina, it's not to say that he isn't fully fit and ready for this game as well. And to be honest, I might even fully take back that comment because I just didn't completely forgot how tribal Mason Mount is. He's Pompey through and through, so he'll definitely want to play Southampton away. So, yeah, I wouldn't rest him for this one either. But Alonso, we've already said, makes sense to rest him. He'll get heavily exposed against Southampton. I'd rather him play the Atletico match. And Hudson-Odoi's basically been our best forward. I don't see any reason to rest him, especially for this match. Now's the time where we actually give him the confidence that he's been needing to have from this manager for a long time. So I say we build on that.
I think that's a fair shout. But what do you make of it, Jan?
Resting players. I mean, yeah, I kind of hear where that's coming from. I hear that. But I think, yeah, Lewis is probably right at the end of the day. Cho, play him. Let him just get his confidence up, you know? Mason Mount, it doesn't matter. Whether he plays or he doesn't, he'd probably still be durable enough to play against Atletico and do 120 minutes, even if it was that. You know, I'm not too bothered, really, about resting anyone in particular for this game. I mean, our game after that is, Man United on Sunday, isn't it? So,
there's a good rest.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good rest in itself. So I think you can play Saturday, Tuesday, rest all those days, and then Sunday again, to be fair. So I'm not too bothered. Whether he rests him or not, I still think we'll get a W, and I don't think it'll be significant either way.
Yeah, it is interesting. And, you know, to get to Hasenhuttle's comments, and I will read a few of them out. Initially, he said, they have a good team, lots of quality, a game plan that is working. You can see the transformation from a team who are struggling to a team that is now full of confidence. You can see a few of their behaviors improving and going in the right direction. He also said there are still some old habits also, but that they will try to exploit and, you know, use as an advantage. That is normal. Not everything is 100% working. He has just come to the club. You can see from some of the players that those behaviors are still there. So already touching on behaviors that we got under Frank, but it gets worse than that. Trust me. Then he said, Chelsea are improving and they will continue the longer they work with Thomas Tuchel, obviously. They're getting better and better, and this is a sign of a manager who knows what he's doing. All right? You know, throwing all the shade. And then to continue, obviously he's touched on Timo Werner before, basically saying that Frank using him wrong. And then on Werner, he said, he gets more runs now, more spacing behind. He can show his quality more. I always said he has the quality to perform well and score goals. There are still a lot of good players at Chelsea. He has to be better than the other ones. They have so many offensive players, but with the quality, blah, blah, blah. He will always be a part of a successful team. Thomas knows how to handle him. He scored against us already this season, and that is enough. And then on the end, he said, on Tuchel in particular, it is obvious that he knows what he does. He's a manager who immediately brings his game plan. You can see the development at Chelsea. It's a mess. It's massive in the short time he's been there. I'm like, bro, are you all right? That is shots fired. Like, not just one dig, right? One dig, managers do that. But the man was throwing 3, 4, 5 out at once. Like, it's a bit crazy. Obviously, someone has said in the chat earlier here, let me just, where was that? It was up here. Yes, boys. How you doing, Hajir? Big up yourself. Can't see it anymore now. But anyway, someone said, you know, can Hasenhuttl really talk considering he's lost 9-0 twice in the last 2 seasons? You make a fair point there. But also, just as put it here, can you really, like, we don't want it, but can you really say he's wrong? Can you really say he's wrong? Like, it's kind of true. I don't want to hear it. And Lewis,
really not to speak. If I speak, I'm in big trouble.
Exactly. Lewis said that on his channel earlier. Like, Frank's gone. Let's not slay him. Let's not dig. We don't need it, right? And I agree. But because obviously Hasenhuttl brought it up, and I'm like, I can't say you're wrong, bro. Like, absolutely can't. Like, it's a dodgy one. What did you make of the comments? And whether you agree with it or not doesn't really matter. But it's a bit of a madness, isn't it, Lou? Like, those comments.
Yeah, the thing with Hasenhuttl, like, I'm surprised he kept going with it. Mainly because I get him and Boss like giving words of advice while Lampard's still in charge of Chelsea, but now he's gone. Yeah, like it feels a little bit petty still. I can't lie. I'm hoping Tuchel bangs 9 in his net again this time, just for the disrespect.
That's quite funny. But what do you make of it, Jam? I mean, do you think he's right? And what did you make of the comments?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think this is mind games, right? He's really trying to inflate Tuchel's ego and, try and lure him into a sense of this kind of being straightforward, I think. He's not going to fall for it, There is a way of praising one manager without disrespecting the other, and he's just gone hell for leather. I don't know why he's done that, and I hope he gets absolutely thumped because of it, because that's taking the piss, But yeah, I'm actually quite shocked by that, to be fair. I really am. I mean, Hasenhuttl, cool, you're a good, promising manager and everything, but respect people, Like, let's just respect people. There's no need to do that. I mean, there was no beef between them, was there?
No, exactly. And like Hubert, again, sorry if I butchered your name, bro, saying it's like unprovoked. Well, what's Frank done? But again, he's not totally wrong. You can see it from two ways. One, lack of respect. The other one, just take a bit of banter. Like, Chelsea fans say it about Frank all the same, and they just insult him with it. Hasenhuttl has just given his opinions. I didn't watch the press conference, I will admit. I just read the quotes. So he might have been specifically asked, and then it's fair enough. But still, it was a bit of a madness. Lewis, did you do it by accident, or did you try to highlight a comment earlier and I put over it?
Oh no, that was just the one you were talking about, the 9-0 thing. It was the one you addressed previously.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
9-0,
Twice. It's a bit of a sticky one. Lampard didn't concede 9 goals. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a better team than Southampton, obviously, but it is a Hasenhuttl thing because he is a really, really good manager. But even there was obviously small links to him when the rumors about Lampard getting sacked started to get bigger and bigger, right? And I always said, yeah, he's Austrian, so just for that reason, I would kind of like it. But if I totally think about it, first of all, Chelsea fans would rip the man to pieces within weeks because Hasenhutl's style takes a lot longer to click than Tuchel's, just because it's so aggressive and you are just prone to conceding quite a few goals very early on with it. And then the fact that at United he went down to 10 men, okay, not his fault that his player is such an idiot, right? But the fact that you go down to 10 after 2 minutes and you continue pressing, well, that's just stupid. That's just dumb. You can't do that. You can't sit there and moan after.
Can't wait to hear fuck Ralphie ball from the Matthew Harding end after 5 weeks. Don't forget Super Frankie Lampard at the 8th minute of every game until the end of this season.
Yeah. I don't know what IB1 is trying to say with this, but anyways, I guess to touch a little bit more on Southampton. Obviously, we just to put it in a chat earlier that you do tend to use a 4-2-2 formation. They press very aggressively. They leave space in behind. We touched on this. That's maybe why Werner should start up front, could start up front, whatever else. And that will be the interesting part in terms of home midfield. I said this on Lewis's channel earlier as well. If we deal with this well, and I know we beat them last season, Frank, but still, if we deal with this well, the way we play, don't sit, don't play a flat midfield 3. Just do what we do. Play the counter press, use the width, attack. We haven't always scored as much as we should, but that's not due to a lack of attacking. That's due to a lack of precision, as Tuchel always puts it in the final third. So if we deal with their press and just play around there and make them look like mugs, then that will put me in a very positive, mindset ahead of the rest of the season. Yes, it's not quite as difficult as doing it against Liverpool and Man City, but there's not very many teams that press better than Southampton do. So if we manage to pull that off against them, it will put me in a very good step. Not in terms of Atletico, because they couldn't be any more different, but in terms of the rest of the season. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that, Jam? Or do you think it's just like any other game and we just, it's just form and nothing specific that Southampton do that will, motivate you a bit more or whatever?
No, I think it would be a good step actually, because the teams that we played up until now, they've all been teams that have been happy to get right into a defensive shape. Probably think about defending before attacking. Minus Barnsley, by the way. Jeez, That press was a bit peak, wasn't it? But look, let's be honest. If we can come away from Southampton looking as fresh as we have done in the majority of our games up until now, then that's a good thing, because that's showing that we can play against different types of teams, and I think with Southampton, I'm going to sing it. We have to exploit that high line. We must exploit that high line. Jorginho needs to be in the mood to play the first time through ball he could play. And when he did it last time, it was against these guys. And what happened? Werner scored, didn't he? So I think if we can keep spamming that, we're going to be laughing and we will win the game. I just can't see any other result. The only 3 guys that I'm worried about from Southampton's team, right, are Danny Inzaghi. That guy, mate, he will finish anything that comes his way. Like any slip, he will finish it. He will do. You got to be careful with him. I call him James Ward-Beckham. James Ward-Beckham as well, mate. Any nonsense free kicks. I said in my preview, man, I'm looking at Dr. Hustle, man. Any nonsense free kicks around the box and it's in the back of the net. We don't need any cheap goals, you know. And obviously, another guy that goes under the radar for them is Stuart Armstrong. Stuart Armstrong, he's a decent player, you know. Every time I've seen them play, he looks like he's going to cause trouble. He generally does. I've never heard of this guy until this season. So, look, if we can keep those 3 quiet, we'll do our thing. I think we'll win easy. And I think we should take a lot out of it because of the style of play that they will play with.
Yeah, it is a fair shout. And before I get to you, Lewis, you do actually make a good point in terms of the free kicks with James Ward-Prowse, obviously. Almost makes me not want to play Reece James because as great as Reece James is, he loves a silly foul. He loves it. Big fan of it. So, you know, you could almost, just for that reason, could almost make a case. Maybe, who on earth's done that? Who just blocked Flawless? Why have you done that?
Oh, that was me, fake account.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, fake account. Definitely a fake account.
There you go. Wasn't he in your chat a couple of times as well?
Yeah, but like you can tell when he's I think I've got the real Flawless modded on my channel. So I can at least tell when it's him. Or when we're doing lives, like he'll put a comment in and just say, yeah, that comment's mine. Block the other comment because that's the bot.
There you go. There you go. Fair enough.
Why is this happening more and more now? Like every single channel I'm watching, there's some fake accounts flying about.
I see. It's just more time getting bigger and bigger. Like, do you know what I mean?
More time is funny. If they don't put stupidness in the comment section, I don't even mind because they can be funny at times. Like you've seen the Kai Havertz and the Mason Mount ones that just start beefing each other on nearly every stream. That I can go with because that's funny. When it's just random BS, I can't be bothered.
Yeah. I hear that.
Yeah, that is not wrong. I did see a comment earlier by, who was it? I forgot his name. I haven't seen you in a while, actually. Ben Stokes. Haven't seen you in a minute. I hope you're well, bro. But he said, do you think we should buy Vestergaard? As much as you butchered the spelling of that. He's a bit like Virgil. Well, yeah, Virgil, if he had a handbrake on. Like, have you seen us load of guys? He's like the new bloody Per Mertesacker. Like, no, Vestergaard is not like Virgil. Just because he's from a country that is quite close to the Netherlands in Denmark, absolutely not. Also, we already have a Danish Maldini. We don't need a Danish Virgil van Dijk. Like, do you know what I mean? There you go.
Well, he's the Danish great Carly, man.
Go on, say again.
He's the Danish great Carly, Vestergaard.
Okay, all right, cool.
Not AC, man. I know he's your boy.
I was going to say, allow my guy's agility, man, calling him the great Carly. Come on now.
Great Carly. I'm not gonna lie, Great Carly, like that was my times of WWE. Like Great Carly against Batista.
I love proper elite Carly, but then like once he fell off bad.
Yeah. No, but like the Punjabi match between him and Batista, like that was some of the best WWE content I've ever seen.
Prime 05 to 10 WWE is goated, and I won't hear otherwise.
I do want to touch on a couple of things after we finish the Southampton thing in terms of quick rumours before we finish this out here. I agree with pretty much everything that Jam said. We need to make sure that, you know, a bit of Ings pace, which is where the 3 at the back, in my opinion, will come in very handily. Also, you could argue that maybe even Christensen over Thiago even makes sense against that, because Christensen isn't like sprint speed, right? Sprint monster, I was going to say sprint speed. What is that? But Rudiger is super fast as well. Obviously, Aspie in terms of a centre back is quite quick, so could be okay. And then just the fouls. Just make sure of that. Don't get hit in behind. Deal with the press, and then make sure we use the spacing behind the day leave, and then just take chances. You know, just to put it earlier, what time is it? Timo time? Well, bloody hopefully, because I don't want to see another 100 days without a goal. It's time to bang some. It's time to absolutely bang some. We hit the 100 likes. Big up all of yourselves, but that doesn't mean we stop here. I mean, 270 people watching. Big up yourselves, first of all. But make sure you subscribe. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. So the more of you that subscribe now, if you're not yet, the quicker we get there. And smash the like button. Of course, check out the Chelsea social, by the way. Help them, reach more and more subs. They just hit 1K subscribers. So big up to yourselves for that. Check out Jam on Twitter as well, of course. And subscribe to Lewis. Maybe one or two of you that are here right now haven't subscribed to Lewis yet. First of all, what you're doing. Secondly, do it right now. But yeah, Southampton, I said my score prediction on Lewis's channel already. I'm going to go 3-1. I think that will be the game we'll probably concede first from an opponent and get it out of the way and then keep a clean sheet against Atletico. I'll be a big fan of that. So, in my opinion, that's my score prediction. Lewis's, I know you said either 3-1 or 2-1 or 3-2 as well. But
yeah, one or the other for me.
Exactly. Before I get to Jam's specific score prediction, do you have any final thoughts you have on Southampton before we get to a couple of rumours that we obviously the Tomori bits and Kessie and whatever else?
Just don't underestimate them. That's all for me.
Yeah,
because it's very easy to just look at their position in the table and just think, yeah, cool, we got this. It's another lower half of the table team. We know we thrive against them. Nah, Southampton are a false image. Don't underestimate them.
Yeah, no, that is fair enough. Obviously, we touched on this on yours. Yes, they're in bad form. They're still a good team, but they are in bad form. Let's not ignore also that they're in bad form, and let's not go into the game and say, we should United scored 9 against them. I know they were down to 10 men for the pretty much entire game and 9 at the end, but still, it is possible to score a couple of good goals against them, and you can certainly stop them because even their goals have dried up a little bit as of late, right? So, it is certainly a thing. It is certainly a thing. Obviously, Melinda saying 2-1 of a score prediction here, which is fair enough. But Jam, what do you think? What is your score prediction?
Yeah, I fully agree in the sense that we cannot underestimate these guys. They're still very dangerous, and they were at the top of the table at one point this season. You could say the same about us. We were top of the table at one point this season. So to get there, that was around sort of October, November. To get there, you've got to be a good team. So they've obviously got the quality there and they've just fallen off a little bit. And I swear, if we go into this game and treat them like we did Arsenal, remember that game? I will never forget how pathetic that performance was in the first half, right? And perhaps that won't happen under Tuchel. So I'm not going to go any further with that. But we have to turn up against these guys and then we will win the game if we do. And because of that, I'm actually going to say that we'll win 2-0. Yeah, I'm going to go for a clean sheet just about in this game. I think that's quite bold because Southampton, apart from the 9-0s, I think they're not too bad. They can get goals. But yeah, I'm going to say 2-0 Chelsea. Timo Werner and Hudson-Odoi.
Hudson-Odoi, why not? I mean, Hudson-Odoi has said he now wants to get at least an assist or a goal in every single game he plays. I'm like, big up yourself. That'd be quite good. The chat is going absolutely mental with the score predictions. 128, 115. I mean, it's not NBA, bro. And even there, that would be a bit mental. But, but fair play. Big up to the chat. But yeah, a couple of things I want to touch on, and I can't be bothered to scroll all the way up to the comment. But someone said, obviously, there has been minor links about the Tomori Kessie swap deal. Obviously, Kessie says DM or centre midfielder from AC Milan, and Tomori has made some comments that at some point he was just out of the team. He wasn't told why. He went to ask Frank. Frank said train harder. He trained harder. Nothing happened, and he was never given any specific reasons. And he also said a couple of days before that saying, yeah, when I joined Milan, it was all about Milan. What happens at Chelsea happens at Chelsea. Kind of, he doesn't really care. 2 thoughts on that. First of all, I kind of rated by Tomori. If he felt unjustified or hard done by, I think it's good to speak out against it, even if it's a legend, because it's it's a big deal and he has to save his career a little bit. Obviously, he's doing very well at AC Milan, but if he wants to have this career in England, you need to not get bogged down too much by things like that. But also, especially in the comments about Timo, about Frank Lampard specifically not being spoken to or whatever, that is just one side of the story. You can't take that for a fact. We've only heard his side. If Frank would speak about it and his honest truth, not the PR media answer, we might have a different kind of approach to it. I don't know. First of all, what do you make of those comments? Let me go with Lewis first, and then we'll talk about the Kessie thing before we end it out here.
The Tomori comments, I've already just grown to accept it. It's a shame, but it is what it is. Tomori ain't coming back. Like, it's a shame. He's a quality defender. We'll regret it. He's going to be another one for the De Bruyne wing of failed moves, but here we are. It's jarring, but the good thing is we have plenty of other centre-back options and plenty of other prospects as well. So it's not the end of the world, but it's a bit of an L from us too. Like, we're just going to have to take it and run. If Tomori comes back, fair play. I just don't see him coming back.
What Ben said is one way of looking at it, I guess. It's one way of looking at it. Obviously, Tuchel was actually asked about Tomori today and said, well, I've been here for less than a month. We've played a game every bloody 3 days. I haven't really had time to think about players that are out on loan. But he said in the next few weeks, we will do that. I don't know whether Tuchel is actually aware that AC Milan have an option to buy him. Didn't seem like he was 100%. But Jam, what did you make of the comments by Tomori and the whole situation? And do you think he will come back? Do you want him to come back? What do you make of all of that?
Like you said, we have to be careful because it's just one side of the story that we've heard. Because before that, I'd heard rumours that, and I'm not just trying to spread rumours, but this is what I'd heard, that, you know, maybe the discipline side wasn't there, you know, especially during lockdown. So I can see why maybe he was just being disciplined, but by not playing. But geez, I mean, to not be spoken to is not maybe the best way of dealing with it. I don't think he's going to come back. I'd love him to. I really would. I think he's a baller. When I see him on the pitch, you know, I get gassed because of his pace. As a centre-back, I think it's unbelievable. You know, you have to remember when we went down to 10 men against Liverpool at home, his performance was unreal when he came on off the bench and we had 10 men. He was unreal. And that's what he can do. It's a bit of a shame. But, you know, if we can get a decent fee for him, as the other guy said, Ben Stokes, Project Haaland. I know they're different positions, but let's use that money.
Project Haaland. And I want to just touch on the Kessie comments because, of course, we know almost for a fact that the Chelsea board don't really want to sign Declan Rice unless his price goes down significantly. There was always, at the start of the season, we were like, well, if West Ham get relegated, maybe. You know, at this point, they're looking like they're making small. It's more likely that they make Champions League football than get relegated. I mean, they're level of points with us, mind you. Rice ain't happening. The board don't want that. If any of the reports by the Athletic or the Telegraph are true, they're not paying money for a player we got rid of at 16. And then obviously there was a lot of different players that were mentioned, you know, whether it was Zakaria from Borussia Mönchengladbach, who of course is also linked to Bayern Munich, or a few others. And then I guess Kessie came in as well. Good player. AC Milan have a good season. I'm not 100% sure what I would class him as a proper DM. I wouldn't. It's again a bit more of a Kante type player rather than a DM type player. So I don't really know. What do you make of it? Obviously, I don't know how much you two know about Kessie, but I wouldn't trust too much in it because AC Milan have the option to buy already. So if they wanted to include Kessie in that deal, there would have to be a new negotiation, which we could then say no to. If they chose to use the option to buy Tomori, they could just do that without us having a no to say here. Do you know what I mean? So let me go to Jam first. What do you make of the Kessie thing, and would you even fancy him?
I must admit, I haven't seen an awful lot of him. I heard that I think he's doing fairly well in the last sort of 12 months or so.
Yeah.
I don't see why they would need to get rid of him. Doesn't really make sense. I don't see why we would need him either, to be honest. There are other players that I would prefer. And I'd hope that Chelsea would probably be on that wavelength as well, if we're looking at DMs. Yeah, I mean, if they win the league, who would I prefer?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I don't know if this is going to happen, obviously, but I've got a soft spot for Marquinhos. I think he could play as a DM. He's unreal. He's literally the steel that we would need in that position. He's absolutely massive. And he's a baller on the ball as well. He's quality and he can play centre-back, obviously. If anything, he's more of a centre-back. So I'd like him. I've got him on my watch list for sure. Marquinhos is top of that for now. But Kessie, maybe I need to watch him a little bit more to be convinced, to be honest. But yeah, I'm not really on that vibe, to be fair.
Yeah, no, it is fair enough. It is fair enough. I mean, Marquinhos, I'm just not sure how realistic that is. I mean, he's captain of PSG. He's kind of like alongside Mbappe and Neymar, kind of like the main man, really. But of course, if it was somehow possible and Thiago Silva can pull some strings, some Brazilian strings, that would be big, because then I guarantee we would play a back four. Marquinhos as the DM, like PSG did. He drops in as almost like a bit like Jorginho sometimes did on the Frank, and people hated it, or on the Sarri when he drops into almost like to make it a back three, and then the centre backs can spread to build up the play. That's what Marquinhos would do if we get here on the break. We're ready with a back three. It would be beautiful. It would be absolutely beautiful. How realistic that is, I don't know. I don't know. And Melinda, I don't know if it's Chelsea level, to be honest, but they're coming back from injury. I mean, it's February. So, I mean, he'll probably be back by the time it hits August. Do you know what I mean? But anyways, better CDMs out there. That is true. But, Lewis, quickly, what do you make of Kessie? And then we're going to round out here because I also know that Jam needs to stream on the Chelsea social in about 15 minutes time as well.
It's a bit of a sticky one. I can't lie. I don't know enough about Kessie to make a full judgment on him yet. Marquinhos, I do like, but I don't think he'll come. I think he's set on becoming a PSG legend, and he's well on the route to becoming that. He's got enough time to win the Champions League there as well, so I don't see him leaving anytime soon. But yeah, Kessie, I just don't really know enough about him. I'm not gonna. I do this thing. I can't sit here and just talk was and just use bare buzzwords on players I barely even notice. So I'm going to research, but I ain't seen enough of him yet to make a judgment.
Exactly. I mean, I want to just touch on this as the second to last thing before, we pick up Yusuf for a second. I actually think it's better for us if Dortmund make the Champions League, because if they don't, Haaland is cheaper and then we have more competition for him. And if Roma wants to go all out balling, he will get Haaland regardless of what he costs. And if he's more expensive, we have less competition by especially the Spanish clubs who are in obviously big financial trouble. So that's why, for us, I think it's actually better if Dortmund make Champions League and we have to pay more, because I don't think we get him if he's cheaper. Quick thoughts on that, but that's just my thoughts.
If he's cheap, but same way, other clubs have to be able to afford him. And every club's still registering losses except for Gargantua and Chelsea. So we should still be fine regardless. That's the whole reason why we're trying to push so heavily on him this year. I think if we could probably get him cheaper regardless, just because of marina tax. So I'm confident anyway. Based off last season and last summer, I have no reason not to be confident. If we're serious about Haaland, should be getting Haaland.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm aware, Felix, Haaland has the buy option in his contract in 2022, not this summer. So, and again, when that release clause becomes active, again, just less likely that we're going to get him. Jam, quickly, just your thoughts on that before we give Yusuf the honors of rounding out with some quick fire questions, and then we'll leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Team Haaland. I watched him this week, and the guy is an absolute beast. He is a Terminator. Name it, he could do it, right? He's fast. He's massive. You can't outmuscle him. You probably can't beat him in the air. He's exactly what I'd love at Chelsea Football Club. He reminds me of the Norwegian Drogba, Honestly, he's very similar. He's 19. Let's go out and get him. I hope he is top of our list this summer. But I hear what you're saying. I understand the rationale behind if they make the Champions League, then we can get him. But it'll be easier to get him because there'll be less competition, because of finances, it'll be a bit more expensive. I get that. But I'd question, like Lewis has said, how many teams would be able to get him anyway, even if they didn't make it. So it's interesting. I kind of think maybe it's best that they don't make it. Still, I just have a sneaky feeling we're gonna go. I don't know what it is. I can't really give you anything. I think it's because I'm going with my heart here because I really like the player, but I just have this sneaky feeling that things go wrong there. There's only one club to come to, hopefully.
Yeah, that is fair. And to round it out with the quick fire questions, again, ladies and gentlemen, if you're still watching, subscribe, smash the like button. But no reasons, just an answer. Neymar or Mbappe, Lewis?
Right now, Neymar. Big up Mbappe, but he's getting there. He will be there and he will exceed him. But same way, I don't want to say it too early. So I'm going to go Neymar.
Fair. What about you, Jam?
Neymar.
Cool. I will say Mbappe because Neymar's too injured all the time. Neymar is pretty much Pulisic at this point. People just ignore it because he plays at PSG and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he's just trying to visit his sister. That's all.
Yeah, but it's a month early. Like, if that's the reason, like, get the game before, not a month early.
Yeah, I got
to make it look less suspicious.
It's consistent.
It is true. It is true. I'm gonna just take the change setup or giveaway for me. I mean, I'm gonna say giveaway, and some brand comes in and sponsors me to do a giveaway. So if any brand's watching, sort that out. And last one to you two guys: travel to the future or travel to the past. Jam, what you're saying, and don't make it too deep. You know, just.
Oh, jeez. Future.
All right, Lewis, you?
Nah, I'll pick the past. Like, I'll see the future when the future turns up, innit? But I can go to the past and I can change the past for a better present and a better future as well. Plus, the amount of grounds that I can go to. I can go Munich 2012. I can go Barca 2012. I can see the entire 04-05 season right before my eyes. I can watch the Invincibles get pammed at their own ground by Wayne Bridge. Yeah, definitely going to be the past. You know how much fun I'm going to have going back in time.
That is true. Like, you know, there is two shouts to make, because future, but just go to a place where you wouldn't be alive anymore. So then you'd see that. That'd be quite cool. But also past, I mean, we could go to Munich. I didn't go to Munich. I've been quite sick to be in Munich. Obviously, we know the result
when Drogba equalised, because that would be a madness.
Exactly, but the thing
I
is,
get why you said future. Like, there isn't a wrong answer in this, but same way, I'm just thinking the amount of football games I can go back to and rewatch.
The thing is just, will it be as exciting if you know the outcome? Like, we know when Drogba's going to score. Are we going to go as mental because we know it's going to happen?
The Champions League final, I'm going to get to see Chelsea lift the Champions League. Even if Bazing was going to be all over the place with the trophy, it'll still be a great night.
Well, what did you say?
I'll put money on it. Easy.
Yes, you see this. This is why you go backwards.
I mean, you could also go to the future, see what new companies are about, and just invest in stocks right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, the money thing works both ways. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, love a good quick fire question, but you yourself appreciate it a lot. Big up yourself. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave it here. It's been a brilliant stream. Thank you to everybody that has tuned in. A lot of views today, which I very much so appreciate. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like I said, 10,000 subscribers is on the horizon, so make sure we hit that as soon as bloody possible. Smash the like button. How many are we on now? Let me just see. I think it's on like 125. There you go. So let's hit 150 right now. Why not? There's plenty of you watching to make that happen. So go down below, smash the like button, and you know, check out these two guys, both Carefree Lewis G. Of course, his @ is in the first or second line of the description. Just click his @ takes you to his channel, subscribe to him, and of course, the same goes for the Chelsea Social, which Jam is a part of. They will actually be streaming in about 9 minutes. Just head over there right now, watch them. Why not? Subscribe, check that out. Subscribe to or follow Jam on Twitter. Just check out my social media. Links are down in the description at Laos1507 on all platforms. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, and yeah, just excited for the game tomorrow. And I'll see you next time.